Okay, so I'm gonna start a YouTube video today. Hopefully I'll finish it today, but I plan on doing a few upgrades to a newly purchased Jeep that I have. And it's this 2019 JL two-door. My plan is to put the Stinger High 10 in here, as well as this Alpine under the seat subwoofer. I'm also going to install the blind spot cameras that usually get installed in this system, as well as a front facing camera, antenna, license plate, frame, whatever. I haven't seen a video where people have done all these upgrades all at one time, so that's why I plan on doing it this way, so that way everybody can see. The first thing that you should do is open up all your boxes. Make sure you have everything. And also, when you open up all your boxes, get your instructions out so you know what tools to get. I didn't have any tools. There's my neighbor's cat, Peaches. But anyways, so that's going to be my first step. I just want to do a quick little intro. What's happening? So, new head unit, subwoofer, tweeters, amplifier, plus cameras, antenna, and some license plate frames. License plate frame and antenna is like, don't really need a video on that. But having this system installed at the same time, you have videos just showing the Alpine sub installed, usually behind a factory stereo, and then you have people that have done the Stinger. I've seen a video for just the blind spot cameras by themselves, and I haven't seen any video on how to do that front camera. So, yeah. Let's get to it. One of the first tools you should always have when you start one of these is a good cup of coffee. So we're going to go ahead and open up the Stinger. Pretty simple. I've installed one of these before. Comes with your sticker, plastic pry tool, and like a registration form. You're going to get the actual Height 10 head unit, and then you're going to get the pack install kit. So this is the pack install kit. These come together in one kit. This is plug and play, really easy to do, not a lot. You just got to take a lot of your Jeep apart to do this. Okay, our next box is the Alpine system. Come with your tweeters. So this is your tweeter kit for the dash. As well as your wiring harness. Instruction manual. and the subwoofer and amplifier. Okay, now it's cameras. So you have the front camera, front or rear view camera. So this is either or. You open it up, and this is got your little camera with the camera mount, all your wire, and then you need to make sure that that's all there. There's even a license plate frame mount, in case you don't want to like mount it to your grill, which is outstanding because I don't want to mount mine to the grill. And then you have the blind spot. So same thing, you got your warranty cards. Comes with 2 blind spot cameras, which are labeled left and right, and all the wiring we're required to install those as well. So if you wanted like a true instructional video, the Stinger YouTube channel is the best for that. I'm just kind of going over how I'm going to do this. These are designed to mount to the fenders. They're pretty slick. And I thought it was a cool system. I've always wanted to try to install one of these, so that's what I'm doing today. So that's one of the things I needed to mention. Is important to note that this particular subwoofer is really only meant for the 2019 and up 2 doors, and any 4-door JK or JL, excuse me, JL. So the 2-door can't have this in a 2018 because of the way the folding mechanism works for the seat. So this can only go in the 2019, which is the reason why I bought a 2019, because I wanted to put one of those in a car. Make sure you open up all your boxes. You never know, if you had the box packed on Friday, might be missing something. So just make sure you go through all the stuff before you even start taking your Jeep apart. I don't think I'm going to be missing anything, but it's just good practice. So in the Stinger box, this is just the height pin box. Right, you get again another warranty card. You get more wiring, your wiring harness. For styrofoam, got no styrofoam. You get your head unit and the actual screen. Basically like a tablet. I'm going to keep those in the box for now. That's really all that comes in this box. This box here. This is the pack stuff. So this is all the interfaces. And this has got your main bulk of instructions. This has every little wiring harness that you need, plus your factory to factory wiring harness, all your little modules for interfacing with the factory computer, plus your plastics for installing it. So take your time with the instruction manual and go through the whole list of what's included and make sure you have all these pieces before you start. All right, let's talk about some tools. Doesn't really take a lot of tools to do this. You're gonna want some kind of little small ratchet wrench with a bunch of metric and standard sizes, because you're going to need a 10 mil. You want a slightly larger ratchet. This is a 3/8 drive with a T50, because you need to take the seat out. A couple Phillips screwdrivers. This is a Torx bit deal, because you need a T20. So this will give me my T20. You don't need a drill, but I got a drill with a step bit, because you have to make 2 holes and 2 grommets to feed wire into the cap, and I like using the drill, but you don't have to. You could just use a razor blade to cut an X into the grommet. So it's not super invasive when it comes to the amount of tools needed. Most people have all these tools. It's not that difficult to get these tools. One thing you might want are a pair of wire strippers. The front camera needs to be converted to a, well, the camera's set up as a rear camera. You need to convert it to a front camera, and that requires stripping some wire and twisting some wire together. Nothing major. You're not cutting in a Jeep harness. A pair of these are flush cut for cutting zip ties so they don't leave any sharp edges. This is just another wire cutter. Before you do any major work to your Jeep, especially electrical stuff, try to get my camera from falling over, you should always disconnect your battery, which for this is pretty easy. It's just a 10 mil socket. Just loosen it up, and then you should be able to pull directly up. And I like to put a little rag over the terminal so I can just set the thing down. I don't have to worry about like twisting it or doing anything dumb to get it put out of the way, so that way I don't have to worry about it touching. Once you have this disconnected, now it's time to start taking your Jeep apart. Now when I say to take the Jeep apart, I mean the more you take apart, the better. Just makes it easier to do your work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my back seat out. Once you fight like a dumbass to get that other seat out, you have to take out that front passenger seat. I'm going to take the WeatherTech mats out on the side too, just because there's a lot of wire routing that has to happen, and you don't want that stuff in the way. So what you need to get the seat out is a T50 bit. Yep, pop that cover off, and then that should allow you to push and pull that out, and that should be your WeatherTech mat. Get your T50 Torx bit, and let's hope that it's not super tight. I always take these back screws out first, especially on a driveway with a tilt forward seat, so that way you don't have the seat come and smack you in the back of the head. Alright. And I'm going to put these in the cup holder back here, or on the ground, whatever. If you're looking for a flawless video install, you should probably look at Stinger. Their YouTube channel's probably more polished. Alright. Once you get these back ones out, then you switch to the front bolts. Alright. Okay. And once you get that done, you can remove your seat. Next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your top freedom panel off. There's a GPS antenna that goes up here, and you got to run the wires through this plastic, and it's just easier to do that with the freedom panel off. Pretty straightforward on how to do these. It's just 4 turn clips. Turn levers, that's what these are. They just kind of go like that. And then there's one that's a little bit different. That's this front one. You gotta just flip it down. And that should allow you to remove your freedom panel. The next job at hand is removing plastics. So we're going to go through and remove the plastics. On the cameras, you have to remove this piece of plastic, and all these things are just clips. So you just kind of run a pry tool, pop these out. You have to do this on both sides because your camera wire routes in here on the blind spot cameras, as well as you need to have them out for doing other cable runs. The other thing you want to take out is this. You zoom in here. This speaker grill. Now with the Stinger, you just do the one side, but because we're doing blind spot cameras and upgraded dash speakers, we have to do both sides. You can stop. So again, these plastic grill covers, they have to come off both sides in my particular install because I'm doing the Alpine system as well as the Stinger, as well as the side kit here, which you saw on the other side. These little pry tools make everything easier. They do give you one with the Stinger, which is nice, but it doesn't hurt to have more than what they give you. You can pick these up at Hobo Freight pretty cheap. I'm gonna get this bottom one. There we go. You're also going to need to take out your glove box, which isn't super complicated. There's a lever here that you have to take off. See here. How'd that go? Up towards the opening. That's all you gotta do. It's like a little tab. Once you get that out, then you push up here, the top of this, and then it just pops out. You need access to the cam buses behind the glove box for this job. Okay, now you want to take what they call the knee panel out. So when you're doing this, again, plastic pry tools always. It's like you'll see these guys like just rip these things. It's just plastic clips or metal clips and plastic, whatever you want, however you want to put that. Now you need access here because you're going to be putting a speaker for your door chime underneath this. Once you get the kick panel off, you need to take your HVAC control panel apart. Now you should be able to start this by just having your fingers. You might be able to use your finger right here. Pull it towards you. You'll hear the click. Right? Then your pry tool. Find a spot to put it in over here. I can tell this hasn't been apart. You just disconnect your starter, disconnect your HVACs. So they're really easy push buttons to do. They're not hard at all. When it comes to your seat wiring, I did earlier, you have a red tab. You pull here and here, and it lets these things just pop out. Pretty straightforward. Once you have your HVAC controls out, it's time to take your bezel off around your stereo. You're going to need your Phillips screwdriver for this because you have 2 screws to remove, and then your pry tool for this part. Okay. Phillips. Screw in the cup holder. Okay. All right. Screw in that cup holder. Now, your plastic pry tools. Yeah, you can do it by finger. There we go. Once you have that guy off, you have 4 more Phillips screws to take the stereo out. So that's the stereo. Once you get it out, then you just connect fittings in the back. So this is your antenna, push on the white cable. This is your main harness. This is a lock tab. Oop, that went too fast. So this is a lock tab. You pull up the lock tab, the whole thing pops out just like it did. And then you have your green connector. If I remember correctly, this is for the USBs. And that's that. You don't keep any of this. All this gets replaced with the kit. Okay. Good. Mm-hmm. All right. Next thing you have to do is you have to take this grab handle off, which is just a little pop with a plastic pry tool. And underneath there are a couple of 10mm bolts. Use a nice little extension to get in there. Right, one more on the bottom. Once you get that out, grab it and pull, and that's your handle. Of course, don't let the plastic pinch you. That'll happen. Okay. Now I'm going to take these little tweeter these little dash speakers out. It's useful to have a little stubby because how close your windshield is. These get replaced with the Alpine kit. Since I'm up here taking stuff off, I'm just going to go ahead and take these off as well. It's just 2 Phillips screws. All these Phillips screws on these Jeeps also can take a 7mm nut driver, so you don't have to use a Phillips screwdriver if you don't want to. and then it's just a little plastic clip. You squeeze it. And easier to do this stuff when nothing's in your hands. It's also a good idea too, if you don't want to put everything in a cup holder, just put the screws back where they came from. You don't lose them. These ones are different than the ones in the cup holder. These plastic clips are always these little wire connectors are always like the worst part. It just doesn't. Sometimes I just don't want to come free. I think this one's broken. It's definitely a different plastic tab. A lot of this you have to be patient because the plastic tabs change. So this one, you have to use a tool to get the plastic tab down. But that's a little dash speaker you're taking out. Then you take the other one out on the other side. Same thing, real easy. So there's a couple of T20 screws you could take out right here along this little header panel, door jam thingy, roll bar. You don't have to take this thing all the way off. This is really just about giving yourself some space to run the cable for the GPS antenna. So you have these two that go straight up that I'm taking out now. I'm gonna put these right here in the little door handle. And then you have another one right here. Now you can use a screw gun to do this faster, but if you're not really good at, if you're not really experienced with a screw gun, you can damage things with that. So slow and steady. Now there's now you can like move it around and pry on it and get the wire up underneath it, all that kind of stuff. That's the main reason why you're doing that. Next is a little more nuanced. If you can just zoom in right over here. I want to stop and. Okay, so then you have these T20s here you want to take out. These are for the back panel behind this center console. You need to take this out because you're going to run a wire back to this USB that's inside here for your phone connector. Again, the T20s I'm going to put in the door handle so I know where they're at. You have those out, you should just have to pull, and it's going to be clips again. That's it. That's all you got to do. Alright, so just so you can see, I'm using the Stinger prior this time. This comes in the kit, so you can see you don't necessarily have to have a pry tool. They give you one in the kit. Now, I'm putting a front camera on here, which means I have to route that wire through this grill opening. So I'm going to take this grill off so that way I can find a good spot to route it. Not very hard to do. The grill openings are just like these little Christmas tree like little plugs. Kind of just wedge your tool in there. I'm using they just kind of pop up. You don't have to pull it all the way out, but That one wanted to come all the way out. It was lonely. And there's a bunch of them going all the way across, so just pop them all out. So with these, I found that it's actually a little easier to get it out if you just pull the whole thing off. And then this is why it's good to have different plastic pry tools. Like this one's got like a little fork. It actually does a much better job at getting underneath that thing and popping it out. Just wanted to show that real quick. Here we go. Next thing is you have to take the actual grill off. This can be intimidating, but it's just clips, just like the dash. Good handle, good grab on the front, hand relief over here. A lot of it is more difficult too because the bumper's in the way. You just have to take your time and use some persuasion. Alright. It's plastic. It'll give eventually. Once you get them all popped loose, you look down in there and you can see when they're popped loose.
There we go.
So there's this one last clip that's kind of a bitch, is because it flexes. So you have to be patient. You have to kind of get your hand in there to pop that out. So these are all the clips I'm fighting with, these things. And if the Jeep's never been apart, it's harder to do. But that'll allow me to run wire through one of these openings to get to the front camera.
That's a no.
The last thing I'm going to take apart, this is crucial for me, is this bent antenna. I don't know what kind of dick bends the antenna for you, but this guy did it really good. Just enough to where it's like bent, and not so bent that it's obviously bent until you look at it. And then when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's bent. And now you got to take it off because some asshole bent it. And that just takes a little, the world's biggest adjustable wrench. Oh, like that. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. Just keep making those noises. Yeah. It's probably going to scratch up my paint because this dick fucking bent it for us. It did a good job, though. Props. Props to the antenna bender. You know, probably a car wash or something. They're really good at that. But yeah, this is the last thing I'm taking apart. Taking that off. Alright, so I'm going to install the tweeter first. And it looks like there's some pre-assembly required. You've got to put it in this mounting bracket. Don't know exactly how that's supposed to go. Looks like that's probably correct. Got these little tabs. Just gotta push really hard. There we go. And then you have your little crossover and wiring harness guy. So they're going to plug in like this. So you have a black with white and then just a black. Looks like these are also not easy to swap because there's male and female. So you just feed that in there like so. Like that. Same thing with this guy, feed it in like so. And that assembles your speaker. So you have two inputs. This one's for a JK and this one's for a JL, I think. Yeah, so that's what you do there. So white to white plug, Pretty simple till it clicks. You're not using the black plug. You're not using this red wire. Those are for a different type of mounting options. One of the things you're going to see is that this thing has a little tab notch in it. So that means it orientates only one way in the dash. So you put it that one way, then you can install your screws. And you just do that twice, once each side. I'm going to do that, and then I'll go ahead and do the other side, and then I'll show you the next step after I do that. So you have to run, I'm doing the subwoofer next, and you have to run this cable, not that one, that's the seat, this cable all the way up behind the dash, behind the stereo. Now, the subwoofer is going to go right here in this spot, being held in by the seat bolts. So this wire, these wires here, stay kind of like right here. And the rest of this just wraps up under everything.
Okay.
So you tuck the wire up underneath the center console. You're going to go behind the glove box. There's a small opening right behind this duct where you can get it through into the engine bay, or excuse me, into the stereo compartment. It just takes a lot of little nuanced contortion work and flexibility. If you're old, it's a good idea to stretch before you start this. But yes, now that we have that in, the next thing is to run the power cable that goes to the subwoofer, and that starts in the engine bay. So now we got to hook up the power cables. This power cable, it's always a good idea when you do this to remove the fuse so you don't have to worry about shocking anything. Your positive terminal on the battery has a couple different spots where you can wire into. Okay, once you get the wire on the ground, it's good to feed a couple zip ties all the way through this one grommet hole that's right underneath the seat, right here. And then you can pull your cable through. You can get all that cable pulled all the way up in here. And I just electrical taped it. Now the grommet, here's the grommet. The grommet's right here. And it's just this rubber plug, is what it is. There we go. So you get a nice little hole in your grommet, and then once you detape your zip tie, you can feed your wire through, and that's protected. Pre-setups to do on your amplifier. This is the amplifier. Now I'm putting a Stinger radio in, so you have two instructions: OE head unit, aftermarket head unit. So we're following the aftermarket head unit. Now there's this little plug right here you take off. Let you get to these what are called dip switches. If you get in here really close, you can see the little dip switches are labeled 1 through 6. And now you just set these dip switches up as the instructions tell you to. So let's see here. 1 through 4 have to be up. So let's see here. Are we up already? I think we're already up. Yeah, it looks like we're already up. And then it has 5 down, and then 6 up. So 6 is actually not in the right spot. So we're gonna click it. There we go. So you have 5 of them are in the up position, 1's in the down position. Once you have that done, you can put your little plug back on. You have your gain and rear gain settings. So that's right here. It wants the low end filter. Actually, they're right here. You want your low end filter set to right where it actually already is. Same thing with your sub gain. That's going to be right where it is. And then you have a button that says remote. Remote has to be up if you're going to use the remote, which this is the remote. The remote just allows you to adjust the volume on your speaker on the fly. When it comes to your front and rear gains, which is right here, they're actually saying that those should be pointing directly that way. So we're gonna point them directly straight that way. It's easier to do this now than it is to do it while it's underneath the seat. And that's the little pre-setup you have to do before you put it down underneath the seat.
Here we go.
Make sure you have your seat wiring set out of the way so you doesn't confuse you. It doesn't confuse me. The wire you're looking for next is a ground wire, which is this guy right here. He needs to attach to a ground stud right here underneath the seat. Make sure that's nice and tight. Okay, so this takes this black cable right here. So that's going to go on that side. So it's more of a rectangle one. The more square one goes on the opposite side. Right here. And then you put your big white one right here. This by braille. Like that. Like so. You got your power cable. It says goes to the battery, but I don't see it right here. So that's where you just ran. It goes right there. Easy peasy. Now you position your subwoofer where it's going to land right where the seat mounts were. As you can see, that's probably going to be a big fight when you get ready to put the seat back in. And then your last connection is this black cable on this side. Make sure you hear clicks. Everything has to have a click. And then you just organize all your speaker wire or your power wires. You just make it nice and neat. Zip tie them out of the way, whatever you have to do.
There we go.
Okay, now we have to deal with the T-harness that comes with the amplifier and subwoofer combo. With this kit, you want to follow this diagram here for aftermarket head unit, again because I'm putting a stinger in it. And what we're going to be looking at is these connections here, which are these ones right here. So you start by taking this is a remote turn on. This tells the amplifier to turn on. That's your blue wire. Okay, and then you go to your black and white wires. You have a bunch of black and white wires. These are all labeled, so this is the front. So this is a front out. This is a says front in. Let's see here, rear in. You just match up rear. Match up your plugs black and white plugs. It should be pretty easy, pretty straightforward. It's all basically color coded. And it's all labeled. There we go. Once you have those all done up, you have this subwoofer one, and this one you're not going to use what it says the high filter section, which is this one right here, sub out. You're not going to use this one. You're going to use one of these adapters for subwoofer, so you can use one of these pre-outs. These RCA jacks that go in the back aftermarket subs. They give you 4 of them for some reason. I don't know why. You need 4. Some of them are the same. But I'm just going to use one of these black and white, or red and white ones. This just plugs right into that. And then this will plug into the back of the Stinger radio. Once you have that all done, you have to actually connect to the actual Jeep. And you're going to use this plug. Let's see here. Where does that go? No, not like that. Like this maybe? Yeah, like that. And you're going to push it down, and then it's going to lock. Once it locks, you're done with wiring up the subwoofer, other than hooking it to the battery, which we will get to that after the Stinger radio is installed. Now, before you finish up or leave or do anything, you want to feed as much of this back in behind the glove box as possible, because the Stinger radio wires take up a lot of room. And that's going to be the challenging point of this install. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is because this adds a whole bunch of bulk. And I know that just installing just a Stinger and a blue JL we have, it was a real fight to get all the wires into the back of this. So we'll see how this goes. But just feed as much of it back there as possible. If you have the OE stereo, it's probably not a big deal. Pull some of your wire through or out. Probably gonna have to tuck this behind or something. I don't know. But this is gonna be my future me fight. But you want to have all these connectors still up here. You just want to end up having, once you get it all fed in, all you should have for your stereo are these 6. Okay, I'm going to do the front camera now, and one of the things that you can do for the front camera is you have this little grommet thing right here that goes into that hole. This is for, like, if you had a manual Jeep, this is like the block off or where the clutch slave cylinder would be. But you want to take that out so you can drill a hole in this so you can run your front camera wire through it. It's really easy to get out, just like one of those pry tools. It pops right out real easy. It's not hard, so just a quick FYI. That's what you got to do for the front camera. All right, well, I'm setting up this front camera. I put it on one of these license plate mounts. It's kind of like a temporary, well, semi-temporary. It's going to be on a license plate mount. But because I'm going to be replacing this bumper soon, I'm not going to do anything fancy. But the big thing to remember is when you're doing these connectors, or just little easy connectors that just kind of push in, you want to make sure you throw some electrical tape or heat shrink so that these don't pull out. You want to do a nice little run, electrical tape, just so that way this thing holds in place and doesn't fall apart. You could do the same thing with these kind of connectors too, and it just allows you to not have to worry about this separating, or because this is probably going to be in the engine bay, not getting wet and corroded. So I'm out of the camera right here with the license plate mount. Right now the wire is just going to be like this until I get the different bumper on here. I snaked it in between the radiator support and the body mount. You pull it up here by the washer bottle. You just kind of follow this refrigerant line set back to the back to the plug we pulled out and drilled a hole in. Then you get underneath your dash and you find your cable and you pull it all the way through. Once you have this all the way through, you're going to route it over to the stereo. How you do that, it's a couple different ways. It's not that difficult to find. Okay, so I just ran this wire under the column through this opening. You can kind of see it right there, kind of floating around. And once you get it in here, you're gonna have a butt ton of wire left because it's way long. This is like meant to be a backup camera as well, so you're gonna get a lot of wire. So again, tape off your connections, same connection we did up front. This is the connection that actually plugs into the stereo. The yellow always stands for video. And we'll see about these. I don't think these get used. This is the power, give power to the stereo or power to the camera. They probably just connect to the back of the actual stereo. But when we get to that point, I'll answer that question. Our next task is blind spot cameras. There's one on driver and passenger side. There's actually a label for what camera's which. This one says passenger side, so right hand side. This is pretty slick the way they do this. This is it just goes right where the spin mill bolt is. So once you loosen that guy up, you don't have to take it all out, just loosen it up enough. Got to get enough room to be able to put the bracket on. You're probably going to have to go from the outside in. Now you just get that in place and then you tighten up your bolt. Make sure you push up against it so the fender is nice and tight. Once you have that nice and tight, you can start routing your wires. And then there's this rubber piece that you kind of pull down. Might be a little difficult to get pulled. Once you have the wire routed all the way up into the spot behind this rubber, the rubber will hold it in place. Sometimes a pry tool can help you push the wire in its spot. There we go. And run it around, kind of hide the wire behind all this rubber, like so. There. And then into the dash.
There we go.
So I did off camera. I mounted this microphone right here, tucked the wires up under here, down the A-pillar. This wire comes from above my head. There's a GPS antenna that you'll see if you do watch the Stinger radio install video. You route them down behind the dash and into under this compartment, and then you bring them up through here. So this is the GPS antenna. This is the microphone. Right underneath here, there's a small spot for a screw and a wing nut, and there's a small speaker there. That's for your door chimes. Again, pretty easy to do and easy to see in the video on the Stinger's YouTube channel. The last one you run, and I haven't ran it yet, is going into the GPS, or excuse me, the USB plug back here, and then it runs along the center section and it comes back up. I'll do that one off camera. It's the same repeated process. Tuck, snake, contort, cut self, die 3 times, come back to life, and continue to tuck, route, squeeze, and cut yourself. So once you've made all your connections, they're all pretty straightforward with the exception of your blind spot camera and front camera. There's really nothing in the manual for that. So the front camera goes to camera number 4, so you'll see these cameras inputs that are yellow, and this one says 2, so that one's the left turn. Then you'll see a camera 3, that's the right turn, and then camera 4 is the front camera. So that was the only thing that's not in the instructions. You also have to power all of them, and there's an aftermarket camera power source right here that uses bullet connectors. So make sure you have some bullet connectors on hand. That's really about it. These connectors here, I haven't done it yet. You connect these together so that way the front camera doesn't think it's a backup camera anymore. I think that you actually have to probably, well, that one's already connected. So yeah, so one is get rid of the lines, the parking lines, and the other one's to get rid of the mirrored image look like a backup camera would have in it. But you just strip them, twist them together, put some tape on them, and that's it. I'll do that, and then all this has to go in that little hole. So that's the struggle, and I've done this in the past and it's taken me like an hour. So but we'll see how it goes. Yeah. All right, so still in the middle of this install. It's been a couple days, but one of the things I wanted to point out, so the subwoofer that goes underneath this passenger seat from Alpine, it's tucked in there pretty tight. But one of the things I wanted to point out was the remote bass knob. So they have this remote bass knob that you can install. They usually have you install it somewhere on the dash or something. I don't like having something like that on my dash, so I just put it underneath the bracket that's underneath the seat. So this is the bracket that bolts underneath the seat. This is the subwoofer itself. Again, you see this is where the brackets go underneath. This is the hardest part right here with the subwoofers, trying to get the brackets and the hole for the seat to line up. And once you have all your connectors connected, you have to get this spaghetti mess into the dash, as well as this module for the camera. And when you're running that subwoofer, you have this split link, this T-link or T-wire, T-connection that also has to go back on the dash. So now you have 2 of these connectors now, plus this bundle of wires. And all that has to fit in the back of this dash. So practice patience, maybe, drink some spirits, get flexible, and good luck. I've done this before without this T-link or T-wire, whatever they call it. with just a standard install, and it still took me like 45 minutes to do. We'll see. It's about patience. You watch the Stinger Radio YouTube channel and you can see how they fast track it and make it look easy. It's not easy. Let me go ahead and try to get this knocked out. Okay, well, I didn't finish filming exactly the way I had a few problems when it came to this. So the first problem I had was the cable that runs from the center console to the back of the unit for your Apple CarPlay. Mine was broken and it didn't work, so I'm running the one through the glove box for now, and that's going to be fine. It's as long as I have Apple CarPlay, I'm good. Second problem I had was when I initially hooked it up, it didn't have any sound. Make sure you know exactly on the pack link it tells you to plug into a port that says amplified, non-amplified. So if you have an Alpine subwoofer in the back of your Jeep from the factory, you need to use the amplified port. If you don't, you absolutely need to use the non-amplified port. Okay, to close out my video on the install the Stinger with the 3 cameras and the subwoofer, I just kind of wanted to point out a few of the things that I had problems with. The first thing I had a problem with was I had no sound. If you have no sound, you need to look at the pack link and make sure you're plugged into the correct port on one of the pack links. There's a port that says amplified and one that says not amplified. You really need to make sure you're plugged in the correct port. If you have that subwoofer in the back of your Jeep, you need to be in the amplified plug-in. If you don't, you need to be in the non-amplified plug-in. If you're not, you won't get any sound. I made that mistake. I was plugged into the amplified one and I didn't have sound. The second one I had a problem with was my Apple CarPlay wasn't working, and what ended up being was the cord that they give you that goes from the center console here down underneath the center console and behind into the back of the stereo. The end of it, this end, get focus. This end was broken off on the cable they gave me. So that's why I have this white cable hanging out of my glove box, because I didn't feel like trying to hunt down another cable. I had also noticed that there was no instructions on the cameras, like what RCA jack to plug your camera into. But I later found out it didn't matter. The reason why it doesn't matter is because you're going to be able to, you have to go into the stereo and tell the stereo what camera is what, right? But this is kind of like a look what the blind spot looks like when it's on. It's pretty good. You can see the car that's parked next to me right now, so you can kind of see it's really good. It's a blind spot, and this activates when you signal and are moving, so it's pretty good. Front camera will activate as soon as you start driving forward, and then obviously the rear camera anytime you do reverse. It's also got a kind of a cool feature, which is the off-road feature, which kind of gives you this little image of your tires. It gives you the pitch and roll, gives your lat and long, tells you if you're in four-wheel drive or not. Your little compass. And it's easy to turn off. Now, let's go back home. Let's go to settings. System settings is where you go, and then when you go to system settings, you have to go to installer settings to be able to change the camera to let it know what camera is plugged into what. Now, nobody gives you this code. You have to kind of Google it, but it's 0052, and that gives you into the ability to change things. It's an installer setup. Let me go into where are we at here? need to go on the camera mode. Where's the camera mode? Camera settings. There you go. And then this is right here. This is where you tell it, hey, camera 2. I put my left on camera 2, put my right on camera 3, and then camera 4 is my front. And then I have the factory rear. But anyways, that's why it doesn't really matter what RCA jack you plug into. Camera 1, or excuse me, camera 2, camera 3, camera 4. You just have to plug one of your cameras into one of those jacks. You just have to remember which one you did and then tell the stereo that you did that. Other than that, everything's been working great. Stereo sounds good. I've had it in here for about a week now, and I haven't had a whole lot of issues. If you have any questions, please leave us a comment. Thank you.